Now let's talk about the custom exception. So we have freedom to create our custom exception and use them whenever it needed. So to create custom exception, we need to have two things. One is custom exception and one is handler. So in the exception, we will put the logic of exception, and in the handler, we will handle that exception. Okay. So for this example, we will follow the complete directory structure. So we should have two directories, one for exception and another for handler. So let's create the first, that is exceptions. Okay. So here exceptions, we will put all exception in this directory, and another is handler. O- So all exception will go in this exceptions and all handlers will go in this handlers. Now let's create one exception, and for that a new file, and we will call it item underscore exceptions, and don't forget to put the extension, that is py. And in this file we will just create one class, and that will inherit exception class. So class, we will call it item not found exception, and it will inherit exceptions. Now in the init, we will just remove this second and put item id, and its type will be int, and just remove this and self dot item underscore id equal to item id. Okay. So this is the short form of this item not found exception. Now we need to handle this, and to handle we will put our logic in this handlers. So here again just create one new file and call it item handler, item handler dot py. Now before putting our logic to handle the exception, we need to import. One is request, one is JSON response, and the exception that we have created. So first, from FastAPI import request. Okay, the first import. The next is JSON response, because we will just respond in the JSON format. So from FastAPI dot responses import JSON response. Okay. And the third thing, we need to just import exceptions that we have created. So here in our case, this is item exception. And for that, from exceptions, okay, so this exceptions dot item exception import item not found exception. Okay, so these three things we have imported. Now create one function. So def item not. Okay, so whenever we raise this item not found exception, we will handle here. So this asks two things, one is request and another is exception. So request, and we can just put this short form item not found exceptions. Okay, and here we will just return the JSON format. So return JSON response, and here we can just put status code and message. So status 204. Okay. Content message and put here f string exe dot item id. Okay. And I am just getting one error here. So okay, so we have this issue. So our handler is ready. So again, let me explain. We have this exception, and this exception has one item ID. Okay, so at this time it has only one item ID. Okay, self dot item ID. And whenever we will just raise this exception, we need to handle this, and for that we have used this. So this handler will handle this exception. Okay, but how this will know that we have this exception and this handler? Let's come to the main. So first we need to import both exception and handler. So here from exceptions dot item exception, import item not found exception, and same from handlers dot item handler, import item not found handler. So we have this exception and this handler. Now link those. So whenever we raise the exception, it will have one handler. So to linking, after this app, this app dot add exception. Okay. So add exception handler here, and first put the exception, then put the handler. So exception is item not found exception, and handler is item not found handler. So now these exception and handler are attached. So whenever this exception will raise, this handler will handle. Okay. So again, let me explain. We have this exception separately. We have this handler separately, and in the main, we are just attaching both. So whenever someone raise this exception, FastAPI will handle using this handler. Now let's see one example how this will work. So let me just make this comment also. So this will just not make any confusion. So here app dot get, and again we can just create same items and ID. Okay, read item. If so, if item ID equal to 0, we will raise the exception. So raise item not found exception, and here item ID. And if this will not execute, return. Okay, so again let me explain once. if the item ID equal to 0, we will raise item not found exception and we will put the item ID that we will get. So this will go here in this exception. So first self dot item ID will be the item ID. Now, because we have just added this exception with this handler will handle the exception. And how this will handle? It will just send one JSON response. Its status code will be 404 and this message will be in the response. So again, let me check if this reloaded. Okay, so now once again we need to reload this page and here try it out, and if we put 5 we will get item ID 5, and if we put 0 we will get item 0 not found and this 404. So this was the example of custom exception. We have one another thing that is global exception. So we can handle some exception globally. Okay. So that is the next example. So now global exception. So to catch unexpected errors globally, we need to create one generic exception handler that will handle all uncaught exceptions. Okay. So in this case, we don't need to create exception because we are handling unexpected uncaught errors. Okay. So only we need to create handler. So first we need to create that handler here in this directory, that is handlers, and for that just create a new file and we will call it global exception handler, or just in short global exception. So here anything you can put. So global exception handler dot py. Okay. Now here again same, we need to create some imports. So first will be request and another will be JSON response. So from FastAPI import request, and the second import is JSON response. So from FastAPI dot responses import JSON response. Now create one function for the global exception handler and def global exception handler. Here request and the exception, this exception. Okay, because we are just handling the exception of all exception, that is the first super class of exception. Any uncaught exception will be handled by this handler. Okay, so this is the magic that will be responsible to handle the global exceptions. Now just put semicolon and here we will just return a JSON response. And the first thing is status code, and status code we will put 404 and content, and content will be one JSON. So message something went wrong. So our global exception handler is ready. Now come back to the main, and here we need to just first first register in this way, and then we will raise. So again, first import, so from handlers dot item handler import, not from handlers dot, and here app dot add exception, exception global exception handler. Okay, so now we have this exception and this handler, and here we can put one another if condition. So if item id is less than 0, raise validation value error, and here put the message. So item, although you need to just put a generic message here, but in this example I am just putting item id cannot be negative. So this is the message that we are putting here, and now again just reload this, and let's put the negative value. So refresh this and try it out. If we put 3, it will work. If we put 0, we will get custom exception id 0 not found, and if we are putting -3, we are just getting global exception handler response. So here code is 404 and message is something went wrong. Okay, so this was the example how to handle global exceptions. Now this is the end of this error handling topic. In the next video, we will just dive into dependency injection. That is also very important part of this FastAPI development. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Till then, bye.